In search of Twyford Abbey.
Now I'm looking for traces of Twyford Abbey, and you may have heard of Twyford Abbey because there's a whole area in Park Royal known as Twyford Abbey, and there's also Twyford Abbey Road and Twyford Abbey School. Now I thought that given the character of the surrounding area, it was likely to be an old abbey that had been demolished or was in ruins. In fact, it was never a real abbey. It was an old manor house, and they sort of expanded it and extended it and changed its use and built a chapel, and then decided to call it Twyford Abbey because the Lord of the Manor at the time thought that it would sound grander, and then the whole area got called Twyford Abbey in response to that. So in fact, the Twyford Abbey we're looking for is a manor house. Now, the last known use was as a nursing home, and that was in 1988, and since then it has been closed to the public, or it's been closed, and of course whoever owns it is hoping that the roof will fall in, it'll go on fire, and then they can sell it as prime real estate, like much of the land around it belonging to Guinness, including of course the famous Guinness factory built by Giles Gilbert Scott, which Guinness demolished in 2006. So let's have a look and see what we can find. Well, I've stopped in Twyford Abbey Road, just off the Hanger Lane, which is described in one London website rather sarcastically as being popular with drivers for its 8-lane carriageway. Now, obviously you know that the Hanger Lane is very unpopular because it's usually congested, and also it's the area where the North Circular Road, one of the most busy roads in London, goes down to 2 lane, or goes down to 1 lane at part of its stretch. So we're in the Twyford Abbey Road, and I'm just going to have a look around. I think you'll be able to see a little bit of evidence there. Don't worry, I'm parked perfectly legally. There's a sign up there which looks like it says Twyford, just through the trees there. Okay, so here we are. Brentmead Gardens is the road we're looking for on the left, and Twyford Abbey Primary School is the little orange blob, and the white blob to the north of that is the Abbey building itself. So let's see how we get on. Okay, it's become easier to continue my journey on foot. Here's Brentmead Gardens. As you can see, there's a huge amount of development around here. All this is former Guinness owned land. This is over the other side of the road actually. Diageo, that's a company which now owns Guinness, and it's Bodiam House. Well, it was Bodiam House, or something called Bodiam House. Now it's apparently a site, and there's some modern blocks of flats over there, and of course something which will probably pretty soon be 150 luxury executive apartments, or to you and me, tatty little flat. Now at the other end of Brentmead Gardens you can see the traffic crawling along the North Circular Road, so there's not much to be seen up there, but I'm going to go right up the other end just in case. Now most of Brentmead Gardens is a terrace, but there are some gaps where you can just see behind that there is something there, but it's not terribly clear because there's so many trees and they're so thick. Maybe a winter visit would be better. Now through the next gap in the terrace, or rather the end of terrace, is St Mary's West Twyford, which is a church, and behind that, just peeping through, you can see the old house, or Twyford Abbey as it's known. There's not much to see through there, but it's the best we've got so far. So it's a Church of England church, but one glance at it tells us it's actually Anglo-Catholic, or High Church, as we can see the statue of Mary and Jesus there. And it's also a very modern church. That's not bad compared to some I've seen, but it looks like they were a bit short of money, so it's probably just post-war, I would think. There is a graveyard that's much older than the church, so I wonder if the church itself was damaged in the war, or demolished or destroyed by bombs in the war, and has been completely replaced. That's my guess. I see a little culverted stream going underneath. And there's a interesting little outdoor service area here. There's an altar or a table, depending on what your point of view is, and a cross erected in memory of Father Philip Fletcher. And there's the little area for outdoor services, and the cross you can see better from here. So that must be rather nice in the summer, but I wonder if that was used temporarily. And there's a sweet little memorial garden here, so I don't really want to step over that. I have to find my way through another way. And here behind the church is Twyford Abbey. It looks like it's very overgrown. It looks like this is the best view we're going to get of it from here. You can see it does look something of an artifice. So all these crenellated towers look like they're made from concrete rather than stone. So it's clearly not a medieval castle, and you can see the rather gaudy holiday camp style canopies or awnings. I suppose they must have been there when it was a care home, and of course it's boarded up down below to stop vandals, although they've managed to get stones in at the upper levels. And then it looks like there's a little bell tower or a dovecote or something similar through there, on the square tower in the corner. So all in all, a picture of ruin. But the fence is actually down, so I can go through, so I'm just going to carefully avoid the stinging nettles and go over this. Sadly I didn't avoid the stinging nettles, even in my thick jeans I got stung, but I am now through. I can see the building in all its glory, which is probably worth getting a few stings for. I wonder if I can go around the other side. Well, there's another view of the south facade with a beautiful cedar tree at the end, but which is actually encroaching directly on the tower, and I'm sure that the roots must be doing a similar job underneath. There's some quite nice little buddleias over there, probably not doing anyone any harm. Here we can see the secret of Twyford Abbey. It's, I don't like to call it a fake because it wasn't necessarily intended to fool anyone, but it's in the style of an abbey, yet it's not. So you've got these things which are meant to look like carved or dressed stones, and you can see the marks made in the concrete to make it look as though it's stone. And then down at the bottom you can see the reality, which is that it's brick built and that the concrete is in fact a rendering put over the top. Well, it looks like some vandals have been at work here, but who knows, it could have been property developers. There are some particularly beautiful tiles, and you don't know where they've come from. I mean, my guess is that they're probably wall tiles, but they could be floor. And there's some rather nice designs. There's one there which gives an impression of what it might have been like. And I hope you'll forgive the shot into the sun as we look at the giant hogweed, which was introduced into the British countryside by William Farnborough, I believe, my great-grandfather, and that's an example of his handiwork. Anyway, moving on, we're very close to the North Circular Road, and you can see the Chinese food wholesaler Hu Hing just through there. This just shows how close it is to our everyday lives, even though it's screened. So we're just a 6-foot fence away from the North Circular Road, and that's how close this interesting old building is to our everyday lives. Now, I don't want to venture through there in case it's unsafe, but it looks like there's a walled garden through there, which was presumably the garden of the old house. And we can see a little bit if we just go in through there, but it's not dreadfully clear. There's a little outhouse or gatehouse here. Don't know, it could have been the washroom or anything. And there's actually quite a huge garden area that goes with this. Potentially a huge garden available for public use. Potentially 100 tatty flats. You can see a little bit of another aspect here. Presumably this is a less grand part, but they didn't think it necessary to disguise it as a castle. I've just seen a couple of butterflies float by. They must adore all those nettles, and of course when there's blackberries to be had, it's obvious I haven't been the first person. Oh, look, a lovely silver birch. I think it's dead though, never mind. I'm obviously not the first person to come by in recent years, as we can see from this, but I think this part of the building is not just a less decorated part, it's obviously a modern part that was built when it was used as a nursing home, probably in the 70s, I would have guessed. Then as we round the corner, we see the old building itself. Again, not irredeemable, obviously slightly the worse for wear. Some of these trees would have to come down. It's a big shame that if this was closed in 1988, this was obviously only built about 20 years before that. So what a waste of money. Why couldn't they have kept it used for something at least, rather than just abandoning it? And nature's really taken hold here, with the dreaded buddleia inserting itself in one of the crenellations, and it's obviously been there about 10 years, well maybe 20 years, since 1988. And it's the same story down here, with nature reclaiming its own, and of course with another beautiful cedar tree, and if that's the extent of the branches, the roots probably extend a similar depth, so I dread to think what's happening to the foundations. It's hard to be too angry with the flowers. And there we are. That's probably the most complete view we're going to get, certainly at the moment, of Twyford Abbey as it is now. Quite tranquil, almost forgotten, but not by me, and not by you. There is in fact a front entrance, pretty much as we would expect.